Learn more about the albums you love with Dissect, a music analysis podcast hosted by me, Cole Kushna, a lifelong musician. Each season of Dissect dives deep into one album, examining the music, lyrics, and meaning of one song per episode. We've covered albums by Kendrick Lamar, Tyler the Creator, Frank Ocean, just to name a few, and our brand new season just launched all about Radiohead's 2007 masterpiece, In Rainbows. Listen to Dissect on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, because great art deserves more than a swipe.
This episode is brought to you by Anytime Fitness. We may talk a whole lot about sports, but when it comes to keeping fit ourselves, there's definitely room for improvement. I hit this point early July. I was just like, I am not in good enough shape. I started trying to walk at least 15,000 steps a day, or hiking, or just anything to keep my legs moving. Now it's the end of 2023. I feel great. I had a physical 3 weeks ago, and the guy was like, "You're doing great. You're doing better than you were 3 years ago." I felt great. Whatever your goals are, progress is possible thanks to Anytime Fitness. Get a personalized plan and support from an expert coach anytime, anywhere. Visit anytimefitness.com to try Anytime Fitness for free. Start to train for your life. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. See website for details. This episode is brought to you by Atlassian. Atlassian software like Jira, Confluence, and Trello help power global collaboration for all teams so they can accomplish everything that's impossible alone. Because individually we're great, but together we're so much better. Learn how to unleash the potential of your team at Atlassian.com. Atlassian.com. Atlassian. Tap the banner or visit this episode's page to learn more.
I need supports to have to clear the room. Stand up and walk now.
Hello and welcome to The Watch. My name is Chris Ryan. I am an editor at TheRinger.com, and joining me in the sphere, it's Andy Greenwald! That's what my voice sounds like in the sphere.
Is that why we haven't done a live show yet? Because you're just working on the booking with James Dolan?
Yeah. I think I'm going to let Bill kind of take the smaller venues.
Yeah.
And then, you, me, Brian Eno, we break bread.
Yeah.
Guy Osiri, Jimmy Iovine. We get down to like how do we want to represent The Watch in this, three-dimensional multimedia space?
Well, that's my question for you. Like, what would we have the sphere project? Like, where would we want to appear to be during our The
It would be
Watch
pretty
live
funny
show?
if we were just like projecting that we were in Bad Brother Bar in Philadelphia, but in Vegas.
But like the last time we were there, which was during the day with deliveries coming in and out.
That would be amusing.
We could do that. Maybe we could just like have... I'm trying to think like deep callbacks. So we could have like Jeremy Renner and his partner.
Deep callback like Veteran Stadium?
No, like Jeremy Renner building structures behind us because that used to be a thing we would do.
We stopped making jokes about that.
The whole Renner thing seemed less funny after a while, even before the snowplow.
Yeah.
But like, for like the real heads, we could have footage of a chicken farm and then like a tsunami wave coming to wet all the chicken.
Yeah.
That would be your entrance.
Do you think, is that a lost scene from Sam Esmail's Leave the World Behind? Do you think that's the post-credit sequence?
Sam just lets it run. It's all digital. So
let's talk a little bit about that trailer. We're also going to talk about the first couple of episode of Gen V, which is the new Boys spinoff, and our beloved The Gold.
I do want to move on, but I do want to know.
I'm having my first ever cortado today, by the way.
That's my drink.
Here it is.
Wait, so what? I'm sorry. This is going to be the podcast now.
I'm a little worried because I already had coffee, but I was up quite early this morning for a meeting with the continent, with the old world. And
Jesus Christ.
And I was like...
what was quite early? When were you up?
The meeting was at 8.
Oh,
so
gosh.
6:45 wake up, 7.
I was a 5:45 wake up, but go on.
Well, I mean, I don't have children.
I love it when you just... suplex me.
That's my choice.
Okay, so...
And when I am taking care of my own older self, you can laugh.
Fair.
When we're doing The Watch, when we're 74, and I'm like, it's going to take me a while to get to the office. I'm all alone.
Without mics, we're going to be doing it. Okay, so wait, so you had your coffee, your normal type of coffee this morning?
I go large oat milk at La Colombe.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then... Now you decided just today.
I'm pretty tired. I have a long day. We're doing the new Beverly show tonight. Yeah. You yourself have a public appearance this evening.
Yeah, Stories Bookshop in Echo Park at 7 p.m.
And I just felt like I needed a little extra juice. And then this often happens when I tweak the coffee recipe a little bit is I can already sort of start to feel my tooth, like my jaw is alive. So we'll see how it goes. I don't know if I'm going to keep drinking this.
I'm excited because, last night, I don't want to put our business out on Front Street, but we dined together last night.
Yes.
It was a big group, bunch of friends having dinner.
The 5 families came together.
And there's a big menu, and you were like, hey, eye contact across the table. And you're like, what's your move here? And I was like, well, I think everything's fine. I think the enchiladas are okay. And then when the waiter came around, you were like, the highly recommended enchiladas, please, sir.
That's not what I said.
You were like, I hear they're wonderful.
You chose the restaurant.
Yeah.
I've been to this restaurant. It's just a Mexican place in Silver Lake. But I was just like, I just want your guidance here because you seem so confident about picking it.
Well, I wasn't. I mean, to be clear, the restaurant met the number one criteria for the evening, which was, will you seat 12 people on 48 hours notice?
Yeah.
So that limited the field. But I'm only saying, like...
It was pretty much that in McDonald's.
Last night, well, there was an Arby's on Sunset. Last night, you trusted me, and all of a sudden, not 12 hours later, you're taking my coffee order. And it's like, am I finally starting to have an effect on you? Like,
you have a profound effect on me.
No, like suddenly you're starting to open up and you're listening to me.
Yeah, but you're just one of those guys who can do coffee for quite a bit of the day, right?
No, I can only ever have 2. But the issue isn't, I had my coffee at 5:47 or whatever it was. It was real cool.
I was still asleep.
This is between yesterday, the Eagles, and this morning, like watching the sunrise. Like it's just a very emotionally stable couple hours. Everything's fine. Just leaving the world behind. And I can't have another one. Like even though I'm also tired and almost just jumped off the train of thought just then live in front of you, I couldn't have a coffee now, but I can have a second one at like 4 p.m.
Okay, I'm going to not drink that. If you want some of it, you can have it because I can already hear my heart fluttering. There's another reason why...
Let's just treat that coffee like chess players in the park treat the clock. Like, let's just see who can hit it.
Another reason why I think my blood pressure's up a little bit today is I had this like funny incident today, and I just wanted to ask you because as we just mentioned, I don't have children.
just dunking again and again.
I was up, I went, got my coffee. It's Sunday morning, waiting. The Eagles are going to start at 10, so I go and I get coffee and I make a farmer's market run, get some tortillas.
Right.
Seasonal. I mean, the season's turned over. Like the bounty is there. The harvest is in a full effect. I think I'm listening to some country music. I'm having a lovely Sunday morning. I come up my street, like not my street, but the street like above my street. It might as well be my street for the amount that I drive it, right? They've recently put in a new stop sign to go with the other stop sign. So essentially like every block around my block is a stop sign. At 8:45 or 9 a.m. on a Sunday, not a lot of action pedestrian wise.
Right.
And I will admit, your boy sometimes rolls through a stop sign.
Whoa.
I come to I pump the brakes.
So you signal that you're aware of the stop sign.
I survey the scene and I go about my business when there's no one else around.
Okay, because so far you're sounding like my dad.
So it was me, and then there was a pedestrian who was walking parallel to my car, not across the crosswalk, but like was walking I wasn't making a right. He was like on my passenger side. And I see him as I glide, gesticulate wildly. He's a middle-aged man with a tote bag, wearing Beats headphones.
So he's us.
Essentially. Yeah. Like there's like a 1 in 7 chance that he listens to the watch. And he starts running up the street after my car.
Oh.
Yeah. And
because
I'm like...
he's a fan? He was like, sir.
I was just like, hey, man, it's like... thanks so much.
Hope to see you Monday night.
But when it's like this early, I kind of like to keep it private. No, see you Monday night.
Jesus.
No, I'm just kidding. He starts running after my car.
Yeah.
And, part of me is like that little shrinking kind of like Quaker school kid who's just like, is there a confrontation afoot?
Yeah.
And then there's another wolf inside of me that's like, I'm Jeffrey Donovan in Sicario. Why are you running at my car?
You got that little bit of that dog in you, even in the morning.
And he goes... You just blew through that stop sign.
Whoa.
Are you just going to plow into children?
Wait, whoa.
And I was like...
Did you tell him what you just told me? That you're childless by choice?
No, I said, sir, there are no children. And I was like, if you're seeing children, we need to get your glasses checked.
Did you say
because
that?
there's no kids here.
Did you add that?
Yeah, I was like...
Whoa.
My driving, it pays attention to context.
Okay.
What do you think of that like argument? Like, am I right to be like, yeah, like I know I'm supposed to stop at every stop sign?
Then what happened?
I drove away.
Okay.
Yeah.
This didn't turn into like a whole.
No, I wasn't gonna get into
Isn't
like a huge fight, but like
Isn't this the beginning of beef?
This one kind of stuck with me. Like as far as like road rage incidents go,
Well,
like this guy chasing me down to like upbraid me about a stop sign when he and I were the only two humans.
I'm glad you brought this to me. I think there's blame on both sides here. I think like, it in the spirit of bipartisanship, I think we could both admit some fault here. I think that your intentions, I know you. Look, I think you're a prince and I think you're a safe driver.
Ish, yeah.
But I also know that he doesn't know that. He doesn't know your history.
But I wasn't doing anything to him. Like he was imagining a world in which all these kids holding hands crossing the crosswalk. And I just like took them all out because I was like listening to the Walkman.
Right, in Spain. Like, this is really compelling, sir. I am not big on, like, I wouldn't have engaged with you had I been walking. What I would have done would have been a really disappointed, slow head shake, or maybe like people can't see what I'm doing, but
you would have gestured.
Like, whoa, I would have gestured.
You would have gestured.
Because this is interesting that this came up. Okay, perhaps not interesting. Let me walk that back.
I'm sure Sasha must just feel like the luckiest person in the world.
This is relevant as opposed to our many subscribers who are listening to it.
We're going to get to TV.
I've learned something. One thing that's good about having children is early wake-up calls. You have a lot of time to think about things. But also you get yourself reflected back to you. And one thing that I've learned about myself recently through the eyes and voices of my daughters is that the thing that drives me the craziest is driving etiquette. Much more than I realized. The thing that makes me the most angry is when you do something like right of way, you acknowledge that there's a lot of narrow streets out here in LA. You pull to the side, you let the other car come up the street.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't get the wave. The wave, I think, is the lack of wave is the sign of the degradation of this country. More so than John Fetterman's
Have
shorts.
you thought about the fact that for a long time,
Yeah.
up until this year, you had failing eyesight, and that maybe the guys who were giving you the wave were in fact giving you the raised finger off the steering wheel, like a little bit of like a 2-finger, salute, like
no. First of all, you're sounding like the Redskins,
like cry macho, just kind of going right by in the pickup, and they're just like, I see you, bud.
I almost said the old name. Forgive me. You're like the Washington football Commanders guy who is just like, I wasn't signaling for fair catch. I was waving. I was blocking my eyes from the sun.
Okay,
not. I was waving, not drowning. Right. Whatever. No. I think that the open hand. Hello there, like salute, is the backbone of a civil society. And so similarly, I think the hand, like the silent communication between drivers is all hand-based. So if I had been watching you do that, I would have shaken my head, but I also would have been like, oh, hey, just in case a phalanx of children were walking by, they would see that I could be trusted.
Sure. Oh yeah. Right.
I was literally virtue signal.
I get you. You're trying to model good behavior.
Yes, always.
Yeah,
always. So
raise a bunch of little crosswalk cops.
I think little snitches. I feel like the fact that this is bothering you this much 24 hours later means that a little bit, you were in the
I feel guilty. I feel like I should have stopped.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I see a lot worse things happen on the streets of LA. than me slow rolling through a stop sign. You
also should have explained that like Phoebe was waiting for your harvest basket back home. You were going to buy some quinoa, some root vegetables. You didn't know what your day was going to be like.
These heirlooms, they're degrading. Andy, should we talk about Sam Esmail's new trailer briefly?
Yes.
Because speaking of the society falling apart, man not being able to trust another man running after cars. It seems like a lot of this stuff is pumped into the anxieties of this film. This stars Mahershala Ali, Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, Mahala Harold. So it is a #1 draft pick for our podcast.
This is a real watch
and
aligned film.
It just looks incredible.
Kevin Bacon in it too.
Yeah.
It looks really good. We obviously Sam is our friend and a frequent guest on the podcast, but this has been what he's been working on for the last year plus, and I think it looks really exciting. Had you read the book? Were you familiar with the book at all?
I have not read the book.
I didn't.
Ruben Altman, right?
Yes. I didn't realize.
Ruben Altman, sorry.
Did you make him Altman? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe. I Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me now why Sam would be drawn to this. I didn't realize that there was an element of not even like the cyber attack part of it, but that there's sort of an apocalyptic cloud over the movie. When you watch the trailer and you see these stars, but in his signature framing, I thought it looked really good. I thought it was a great cast. And, you and I are trying to, in as much as we can in a podcast that is primarily about television and driver's etiquette, I feel like we've been talking around movies a bunch the last few weeks and months and sort of like trying to at least speak into existence what a post-contraction, post-strike cinematic universe would look like. And this feels in line with that, in that it is really talented actors talking about things with emotional stakes, but with a little extra
genre twist,
sprinkle of genre or of something that might communicate in a Infinity War world.
I think, the basic setup is that Mahershala Ali shows up unannounced at Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke's house and alerts them that the world is basically ending.
But also, I think there's an element of it's their vacation house, and he's like, I'm actually the owner of this house.
Oh, okay.
And whose home is it, and what's, And, one of the executive producers who's apparently been giving a lot of notes on this is former President Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Do you think, I know there's some thought that he may have engaged with our Game of Thrones content at some point. Do you think that we would have been better served to have had notes from him?
Oh, on After the Thrones?
Yeah.
Like more CR in my monitor kind of thing?
Like he just wanted more of you? That's
like,
your thought?
He's just
the president's notes?
Now, Chris, stop signs mean stop. All the way.
Yeah, you just totally changed. I don't know. You kind of already had a rep as the bad boy of this pod.
I don't want to make it sound like I'm like here running Reds. It was just like, it's my hood. I feel like when you're on your own block, the rules are a little different when you're driving.
See, I just keep coming back to, I recently drove in a car with my 84-year-old father. I want to say drove for the last time with him because I'm not getting in the passenger side again. And he treats stop signs, like, it means something different to him at his advanced age.
Like the Berlin Wall? Like, what does he do?
No. I just mean that, like, at this point, he's like kind of post-language. Like, the stop sign and the shape and the red, like, that's universal. Everyone in the world knows what that means.
And he's more just like...
He's iterating.
What an interesting pop of color.
He's like, okay, well, I'll stop the car. I said break the car, and that's kind of accurate. But then as soon as it seems like we're down to like 1 or 2 mile per hour, that's when he takes his foot off of the brake again and just rolls forward. Regardless of traffic, regardless of people walking, I think he's in a hurry.
Oh, he's like, if I stop, I can go again.
Immediately.
No matter what.
Immediately.
Yeah.
As if to better position myself for what's to come.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
No, I fully stop. I check around. I'm waving to everybody.
You'd lower your music responsibly.
Yeah.
You leave the world behind.
I turn Rosillo down to a murmur.
Anyway, you're listening to it because I saw that now that Spotify's changing people's languages, you should listen to Rosillo's Spain travelogue in his native Castilian.
Oh yeah, because not Catalonian. He did not. Well, he did do a little bit of Barcelona,
but I don't understand Catalan.
You don't.
Thank you for. Tell me more about yourself.
I feel like I have passing familiarity with the language for the amount of La Liga that I've watched in its native tongue
of Catalan.
Yeah,
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
The last thing about the Sam movie I want to say, we'll talk about it more when it comes out. Maybe Sam will come talk to us about it.
Well, I assume he'll be here for the end of the year pod.
Yeah, but we could talk. I'm just saying, instead of having him
I like that being the only time I talk to him.
That's fair.
Is him walking in the door and telling me what an idiot I am.
I was going to say, but if he came for the purposes of his movie, maybe he wouldn't yell at us the whole time.
Well, no, he'd have something to sell.
Yeah. You soften the edges. Just to say that the other modern thing about this is that this is a Netflix film. And I'm still curious what any of this means for anything going forward, because Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which I am very excited about, is an Apple film, but it is being marketed and presented as a pure theatrical movie.
Yeah, it is. Yes.
And Leave the World Behind, at least.
Can't wait to see that one wedged up against Ted Lasso on the old Apple TV app.
The boxes.
Yeah.
But Leave the World Behind appears to be a straight Netflix, it's a Netflix ad. It's a branded ad, as if it will be streaming then, without the theatrical play, which I'm sure is disappointing for people involved, although they probably knew the score. But I don't know, I feel like all these little decisions affect our perception of what movies are and how they're doing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think I had this conversation the other day with Sean and Amanda, and there was like a prompt about like we were doing like a talk or something, and like there was a prompt about like what's the last movie you saw in the theater, and it had been a minute for me, and they were both just kind of like, "Whoa, really? You haven't been to the theater since Talk to Me," which was like in early August, which is a long time for me not to have been back to a movie theater.
Does that include? We were talking about this last week. Does that include rep screenings and things?
Well, no. I mean, I did see a screening of The Creator, so I guess since then I've been to the movies, and I was planning on going to see another one this week.
But you're slipping.
I am.
I
love TV too much, when it's all this good.
Do you get relegated from the big picture if you don't see a certain number
There's
of movies?
a lot of talk about how I don't really warrant the third chair on that pod because of my lack of commitment to
also
cinema.
Because of my shadow campaign to have you removed.
That's what you're doing at 5 a.m.
That's what I'm thinking about.
A lot of message board posts. I don't know. Did you want to talk at all about Sphere or the government shutdown or anything else?
Do you want to see a show in the Sphere? Or did you mean the film Sphere?
No. I meant. So you and I were talking a big game about you too, and I think I'm still talking a big game.
You were the ringleader of that.
I thought that would be like a really cool trip. Vegas,
fellas.
baby, Vegas. Yeah. Just the Wild Bunch back together again, and we roll out. And I felt like I like to have 30 hours in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a great 30-hour trip.
Yeah.
The heart of that trip being a U2 performance.
I would love to see that.
A little Momofuku, a little Bono, a little Blackjack.
Nope, not for me.
No?
The first three parts, yes.
But I did think, John Caramanica, our buddy, wrote a really cool review of it in the Times this weekend. And I've seen a bunch of people just be like, this is a pretty weird place for Achtung Baby to have wound up.
Yeah. That said, the thing that made me interested in it is Michael Wood reviewed it for the LA Times, and he was describing that the most striking thing about it is the intimacy because of the shape of the Sphere.
Yeah.
The stage feels smaller and more immediate, whereas the projection is obviously much bigger. So you're seeing a band that, I haven't seen U2 since Veterans Stadium in 1991 or 2. This would be quite a different experience.
It sure would. Well, hopefully we'll get to have it together.
I want to be clear. You're the ringleader of this. You're the Bono of this exercise.
Yeah.
I'm the drummer that gets left behind because he's too old.
Crippling back
He's just too old to go to Vegas now.
This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. New Year's resolutions are fun the first couple of weeks. Then you kind of maybe conveniently forget about them halfway through January. No shame. It happens to us all. But this year I have a foolproof plan, at least when it comes to saving money. Just switch to Mint Mobile and you're done. Goal accomplished, because for a limited time, their wireless plans are $15 a month when you buy a 3-month plan. The great thing about Mint Mobile is there's no jaw-dropping monthly bills or unexpected overages, and all plans come with unlimited talk and text. Get this new customer offer today at mintmobile.com/watch. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
This episode is brought to you by Peacock. From co-creators Mike Judge and Zach Woods, the new semi-animated Peacock original series In the Know follows Lauren Caspian, public radio's third most popular host. He's a well-meaning center-left bourgeois Nimrod and a stop-motion puppet. Along with his ragtag staff of lovable misfits, Lauren produces a program called In the Know. The show features interviews with real human guests, including Finn Wolfhard, Tegan and Sarah, and Mike Tyson. In the Know is streaming now only on Peacock.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Love the way you look this wedding season at Men's Warehouse. With the range of sizes from extra small to big and tall. Explore top styles at prices for any budget, including designer suit and tux rentals starting at just $159. With over 600 locations, in-store consultations, and easy online booking, there's a reason why couples choose Men's Warehouse to find their perfect fit. Men's Warehouse. Love the way you look.
Okay, we have 2 shows we're going to talk about today. I'm sorry if people felt like I just needed to get all that stuff off my chest.
That's fine. Look, Hollywood is slowly ramping back up. The actors are sitting down with the AMPTP today. I don't think we should lie to the people about having like tons of content right now.
Yeah. Well, we did get a new show from the boys universe.
We did.
So this one is Gen V. It's essentially boys in college, the boys in college. And it comes from Craig Rosenberg, who works on The Boys. He also did Based on a True Story. I think that was earlier this year with Kaylee Cuoco and Chris Messina. And then Evan Goldberg and Eric Kripke are also involved, and it's showrun by Michelle Fazekas and Tara Butters. And I think when I watched this, Andy, do you know what was banging around inside of my head?
Tell me.
The Stephen DeKnight thread about Daredevil from a couple of weeks ago.
Tell me about it.
That was on the app formerly known as Twitter. It was basically a conversation that people were having during the writer's strike about how many seasons need to happen for a certain like mandated pay raises to go for all the below the line folks.
Oh, because we talked about this. His point was that Disney Plus is now doing a Daredevil show.
A reboot of Daredevil, which is called Daredevil Born Again, but they are pretending like it's Daredevil season 1, when in fact most of the Daredevil kind of universe is being transported over there. I in no way mean to suggest any kind of shenanigans going on with the boys, but it was I noted that like I basically felt like watching Gen V that was like starting from zero with the boys. That it was like starting again with a wide-eyed central character who was, given these sort of terrible but awesome powers. Those powers were she came of age with those powers through trauma, and now she is looking for community in an institution and so perhaps a bit of celebrity. And when she finds all those things, what she really finds is a hollowed out heart of darkness and evil, which is essentially the Vought Corporation.
Right.
And it has a lot of the same tonal notes in terms of it's bloody, it's profane, there's drug use. Every time you think you kind of have your hands on it, it explodes quite literally. And we're going to get into some spoilers. I think for the first episode, I watched some of the second and third. But
yeah, the first 3 went up, much like they do with the boys.
What did you think of this show?
Well, I want to be slightly cautious because I know some people who worked on it, and I admire those people, and I think people work really hard to create something out of whole cloth. Because The Boys, I think as people who are fans of the show know, is based on a comic book by Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson that was pretty notable for its extremity. That was baked in from jump. And a lot of the characters, Eric Kripke, who did Supernatural, who adapted The Boys for Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's company, took a lot of liberties with the original comic book text, but I think to bend it more towards a sustainable television show. So, to go down this road, but like Huey in the comic book looks like tiny Simon Pegg, which is why Simon Pegg was cast as his father. He doesn't look like the more traditionally American everymanish Jack Quaid.
Right.
Just put in some sort of sustainable blocks for a pretty over-the-top conceit. This is completely invented. This exists because The Boys does really, really, really well for Amazon's Prime Video. And as we've talked about many times in the pod, Amazon has struggled with what works for it and to build its own franchises and to be able to compete in that type of arena. Obviously, they don't need to compete in any arena because they're Amazon, but in terms of its TV product. So the mandate, this is a top-down show. I don't think this is even scandalous to be like, the people who run Prime Video are like, can we have more, please?
Yeah, this is now the third. Yeah, it's the third Boys entry.
Because there was a cartoon.
There's an animated one,
right?
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that has made The Boys good, and I'm a big fan of it, is that they make 8 episodes a year, and they take a lot. Like they're big, long episodes, big cast, big special effects, and so they want more. So this is what they came up with, and I was pretty appalled. I think people probably sense that, but like,
I just want to say,
yeah,
and you're very aware of this. This is exactly what you said when you watched the first few minutes of The Boys,
which is why I didn't give up.
Right.
I watched the first 3 minutes of Gen V and turned it off and had to take a walk because I just
before or after the Eagles game.
Which did I watch it? I watched it before. By the way, you texted me about Gen V at like halftime of the Eagles game, and I was like,
it was a kind of a dull game in the middle there.
You are a pain merchant.
Yeah,
that was crazy. No, I turned it off and had to go for a walk because I was like, that's the most irresponsible and appalling thing I've ever seen on television since we started covering it.
Because it's about kids or younger people?
Well, we can unpack this. Like, I then watched the rest of it, and you could see the shape of a week-to-week, relatively compelling show. I think one of the low-key strengths of this universe is casting.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jess Sinclair was really good as the lead Marie. I think all the characters seemed pretty, all the actors. Lizzie Broadway I thought was really interesting and charismatic. And
are we spoiling the rest of the first episode here?
I think we can talk about we'll talk about the shape of the first episode. I think the thing for me, you said that there's similarities with The Boys.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that there aren't, and those are why I think there aren't enough, and that's why this fails. Now, obviously, you don't want to just replicate it, but one key difference is, yes, our lead character, our point of view character, suffers some hideously over-the-top violent trauma about loved ones. But in The Boys, our point of view character is not a soup, is a regular person, is Jack Quaid.
Oh, see, I was thinking of, I was more referring to
Annie. Starlight.
But
it was, The Boys' attitude, I think it earns its attitude because it's, now this has obviously changed and developed over the course of the 3 seasons we've gotten so far, but it's like, what does it mean to just be a normal person in a world where these beings actually exist?
Mm-hmm.
And the potential for head-exploding violence is around every corner, where all celebrity, all political power is all concentrated in the hands of the corporation that can make people fly.
Mm-hmm.
That perspective, I think, helped a lot. I think it also helps a lot that it's adults. I think that it allows it to sort of earn its satire. It's like it's satirizing superhero culture. It's satirizing, in a way, a world in which Amazon exists. It's satirizing capitalism. Like, it has a very specific point of view within which it does its head-exploding antics. This is a teen show or coming-of-age show, which I think people look to for different things, for more, maybe more emotional storytelling or angst or heightened whatever. And it's trying to do The Boys playbook again, which I think feels, to me, incredibly cynical. Because it's once again, like on The Boys, you're like, yeah, well, this guy can shrink. So what's he going to do? He's going to climb up the inside of someone's dick. Like,
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's going to be. It's all going to be sexual. The premise behind Gen V, and I feel like there are going to be people who are like, oh, this is really brave. And there are people who are going to be like, this is deeply offensive. I don't feel necessarily empowered to say either one. But it's taking issues that disproportionately affect young people, like self-harm or disordered eating, and saying these are origin stories.
Yeah.
And that these are wells that we can continue to go back to get our high. And our high is whether it's like over-the-top violence or superhero, whatever. And that doesn't feel great to me. It doesn't feel super... earned is a word that gets me in trouble for saying. But I did feel like there's something that feels significantly off in trying to replicate that level of nothing matters over-the-topness in this setting.
Yeah, there's a... I wonder also whether there's the context where when The Boys came out, it did legitimately feel like a breath of fresh air at a moment when we were essentially being boxed out of like our own cultural lives by superheroes to some extent, and that there were, Marvel was running at full speed. It seemed like DC was going to mount like a pretty serious challenge, and Snyder stuff, like all of that was happening. And what you had was and I'm going to be really like reductive here, but the somewhat glib version of superheroes, which is like the Marvel thing of like everything is a wink wink kind of joke until it's not, and then you save the world. And then the really over serious pseudo mythological DC stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Boys kind of like not only split the middle, but kind of flew up the middle and exploded it by being like, we can have our cake and eat it too. There's some really cool shit in here. People like watching some of these heroes do their thing, but they're all broken people who are craving like something that they'll never get, which is like normalcy in their lives. And obviously also I thought that The Boys had some pretty special performances driving it. I mean, especially Annie Starr as Homelander is like a pretty significant like TV character over the last 5 or 6 years when you look back at it. But yeah, now that this would be like, there's been 3 seasons of The Boys. There's been an animated show, which I did not check out. And now there's this. It almost feels like a little bit of overkill. And I know why that this is happening. It's like what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's like there's a mandate for more of this stuff. And you can fully see a world in which the people from Gen V graduate into the mothership show at some point, or that there is this crossover and there's already appearances from folks from the boys in this series. But I guess I think I might have just hit my personal limit on like how interested I am in this whole thing.
Well, it's not the boys. One of the reasons why I think it's successful is because it is. I was saying this at the beginning. It's an enormous show. It goes to the end of its storytelling arc in the course of a season. It goes to the origins of superpowers. It goes to the global political balance. It goes to celebrities and Hollywood and personal stories and coming of age stories. It's doing all that.
Fascism,
fash. I mean, cutting edge. Ripped from the headlines. It does all of those things. I mean, look, this is not a helpful criticism to be like, I just don't think there's a reason for the show other than the Amazon one. I think that that's a challenge that sometimes creative teams can take advantage of.
Well, it is adapted from a storyline from the boys, right? Like this is pre-existing material, isn't it?
I
think so.
I don't know enough about the comic book to know. I mean, I think that there's probably some university element that came up. There was like 70 issues of it. But I think but these characters and this point of view and the reason for it were created, I think, from whole cloth. And I just found it to be kind of a ugly hang. And I do think that has a lot to do with, the auteur thing is way overinflated and very often not true. But I do think that often a showrunner or a developer or a writer, a head writer, can be responsible for some tricky tonal acrobatics. And this has been the thing I've said 100 times since we started covering the show. I'll keep saying it, that I think the secret sauce of the boys being successful, because it was not destined to be successful, and predestined. It's tough to adapt Garth Ennis into anything other than comics, as we learned with Preacher and probably many other abandoned adaptations over time. And the boys was set up at Cinemax back when they made shows. Like it has a longer history to get to the screen. I give Eric Kripke a lot of credit because I think that he's still making CW shows. He can just have swears now.
Yeah.
And a lot of male nudity. And I think that just provides a foundation. And in a way, there's a version of Gen V that I think could be interesting if it was also a CW show or even a WB show. If it was Dawson's Creek, but there's some element of Supes or whatever. But the project seems to be more like a minor league feeder show in all senses for the larger show.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, how many times already? We've only had 3 seasons of it, but how many times are we going to find out that maybe Vaught's not on the up and up, or that everything is cynical?
So here's from this point on, I just thought we could do a little bit of spoiler conversation about it. So essentially, when you're watching this series in the first episode, you're like, okay, this character Luke, who's played by Patrick Schwarzenegger, is the Homelander of this series. He's the golden boy. He's the #1 draft pick. Everybody's going to be kind of focused on him. And Jazz Sinclair's Marie character is the sort of upstart, not unlike Starlight. And that's going to be sort of the central tension of this show. And in a nice bit of erase the whiteboard, like Luke dies in the last scene of the first episode. And the series then becomes the sort of conspiracy around what was going on with this guy.
And the woods.
What was the woods that he's talking about? He mentioned something like, what does he say? Like to take you to the woods, or he's basically like the woods.
There's something real there.
There's something real.
Someone's being put there. Whether that's and I think it's not. If you've watched the first 3 episodes, that becomes a little more revealed.
Yes.
What that is.
Yeah, and the Clancy Brown character, who's like sort of the professor who oversees all these kids.
By the way, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Clancy Brown. I mean, there's no one else in his league as the I'm here for 1 episode all stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like it's like I remember. My buddy Brian, who I hope still listens to it unless he's mad about this, would like in the Briar Patch Writers Room, like every day he would get an ice cream sandwich, like early in the day. And finally, some of the other writers, some of whom worked on Gen V, would be like, what are you doing? Like, does your family know that you're just eating ice cream all day? And he just said, they get me for as long as they get me. And he just opened the package and ate an ice cream.
That's good.
And I feel like that's Clancy Brown.
Yeah,
he did this in Sleepy Hollow. I mean, as soon as he shows up, he's not a regular cast member.
Is he calling right now?
I think his agent's calling, being like, I have a spot for him. But Ahsoka too. It's just like, look, I like the beginnings of things. I don't really like the ends.
I thought it improved with that twist.
Okay.
And I thought that the next two episodes, especially the second one's 40 minutes. And this is something
Love that.
I hate to just be like you know what I like is trips that are shorter than ones that are too long. But like 40-minute episodes work a little bit better for me than 105.
Also, I
these
think
days.
we know that considering how quick you are to like get places in your car, that you are in a hurry. Maybe that's just our advancing age, but you don't want to like wait for stuff, right? Whether it's exposition or
you know what
a
I
traffic
mean.
signal.
You know what I mean.
You know what I mean. That was me. That was me chasing you down. I was up real early.
I would be excited if that was you. That would be such a twist for our friendship.
Would you be happy to see me?
If you were like, you're going to kill someone one day. And I'd be like, is this a bit?
See you at the Sphere? Yeah, look, you are right to call me out.
I'm not calling you out.
No. I called you out a moment ago. Points on your license, sir. No, you are right to contextualize my horror by the fact that often I react very strongly to the beginnings of things. That's true. That's why I toughed it out. I'm the hero here.
Yeah.
And kept watching. I think that there is
I think Mark, the retired Joint Chiefs General Mark Milley mentioned you in his speech.
I think he was talking about me. I do. At least that's how I heard it. I think that there is a professionalism to Point Grey, that's Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's company, and to Kripke, who's involved in this. Like, they will straighten things out, and tell a version of a story that's going to be fine. And I say fine, I don't mean that to be dismissive. Again, I think that when you have a process and of some veteran writers, you make TV that is good or serviceably good or hits its marks, which is no small thing in this era. But I was really uncomfortable with some of the checks the show was writing, and how in any way that's sustainable or even just like a good use of anyone's creative time.
Right.
Where we have this heroine who is interesting and complicated and very dark and in terms of her backstory and the burden she carries, and then is this the show that is going to do justice to any of that? Especially when the whole premise of justice is up in the air in the boys' universe. So that every time she's going to use her powers, she's going to take a knife and cut. That's baked in now to the show. I don't know how you police against just becoming incredibly glib about that, Now, that's me projecting.
Sure.
I don't know. They may have solved this. There may have been, and I would imagine there was, because again, these are professional people. These are not necessarily like flamethrowers behind the scenes. I am sure that they in the room were aware of the areas that they were wading into. I'm sure that they considered it. I'm sure they talked to people who work with young people, who they talked to mental health professionals, they maybe shared their own stories, whatever the case may be. It's not me to police what other people talk about on their shows. It just felt like a really, really big swing on something. It just felt like it felt misaligned.
Okay.
Misaligned to me. And I say that, and I can't wait for the boys to come back.
See, I think I was curious whether or not this had, when you have franchise expansions. Now, there's different kinds of things way to do this. I feel like this is very much cut from the same cloth as the boys, and it's supposed to be sort of like an additional patch in the quilt, so to speak.
Right.
Then there's something more like Star Wars or Marvel, which while it may have connective tissue, often pitches these shows as, well, this is the one that's almost like a sitcom, and this is the one that's about like psychedelic time travel, and this is the one that's supposed to feel like a 90s action movie. The Boys so far has felt like it's the Boys. Like, they curse, they use drugs, shit explodes, people are bleeding everywhere, fire, blah, blah, blah. Like, and also like the major sort of plot lines are Vought versus everybody. I think that there's two kinds of excitement and there's two kinds of exhaustion. So sometimes, like, I get Charlie Brown football with Marvel and Star Wars shows because I'm like, who knows? Maybe they figured it out this time. Maybe this execution with this creative team is different. Now I'm starting to feel more and more with Star Wars like I got it because I kind of feel like I know Dave Filoni's pitch and it's not mine, right? But if they were still doing like, we're going to bring this person in and let them do their spin on it,
yeah,
I probably would still give it a shot. With the boys, I think I actually have found, and this is really nothing about the story or anything. Like, it's not a diss. I just think I may have like been like, I think I got it. Like, I don't think I cumulatively need X amount more of these stories to like sort of understand what's going on here.
But I think that's a feature, not a bug. I think the difference is the MCU is being mined from a gigantic quarry of disparate stories and histories and decades, right? And so going in, that was always the thing, that the Avengers was never going to feel like Moon Knight or whatever. Like those are just different types of stories in the comics. And I think one of the smart things that Feige did at the beginning was he picked a relatively tight story to launch it, and then was like, but the real selling point here is what?
Sokovia.
It's all about made-up Eastern European democracies and whether they bounce or not, when lifted into the sky. The Boys is a single story. There is no Vought cinematic universe except within the world of The Boys. The Boys is one idea writ on a very large canvas. And so to then like strip some things out and be like the WandaVision of The Boys, what is that?
I don't know.
Who cares?
Do you care?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I do, because The Boys, the reason why it's good is because The Boys seem to be the definitive statement on this universe and all the different things in it. One of the reasons The Boys is good is because if you watch that first season, you don't feel like they're holding back a bunch of sick IP for like the later expansion packs.
Right.
He's just emptying the notebook and be like, okay, in this world where Superman is a fascist, go. Here's everything. And then every season it's fun because there's always a few more wrinkles to that. Well, guess what? You think he's bad. What was Captain America like? Okay, we're just going to keep riffing on someone else's stuff and giving our version of it. This is just a tough thing to try to do. And this is why I'm trying to, even while I keep using words like appalled, trying to have some empathy for a creative team who's trying to do something, in real time with very high stakes that was not intended to be done.
Yeah. I guess in my mind, I was like, what's like the Colby Minifie version of The Boys, where it's just like this character and her professional ambition and what's her personal life, and like kind of like a sideshow about that, and it's told in a different way. But I guess there's no real...
But not to pick up on old hobby horses, and I bet everyone's like, is he going to talk about Star Wars again? No, I'm going to pick up a more recent one and say, for me, a comp for The Boys isn't necessarily Secret Invasion. It's Winning Time. I'm genuinely serious.
I know
because
you are.
We're talking about Winning Time, and one of our criticisms throughout was, who is the show about? Is it about the front office? Is it about the star players? Is it about their personal lives? Is it about their life on the court? And that equation never quite netted out.
Mm-hmm.
The Boys figured that out. The Boys, I think, gives us just enough of the front office, of the plays on the field, of the emotional storytelling, and it keeps it moving, And so I think Colby Minifie is amazing on The Boys. I also feel like, while we'd like to see more of her because she's a great performer, the amount of Ashley is correct.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think they've got that recipe
I was just
down.
applying our, like, what they should make is Cheers, but for the Star Wars universe to it,
There have been attempts at that. There have literally been comic books about that. There have been, they could, but what is the larger, the problem is when you suggest something like that, like immediately the question is, what's the larger corporate purpose? Because you could do, and again, I'm forgetting the name of it, and, I'm doing this event with our buddy Sean Howe tonight, and Sean wrote the Marvel Comics book.
Yeah.
He would remember, like, there is a bar in Manhattan that like villains congregate at, or there's been stories about people like off hours stuff. Like, you could do that, and probably someone has gone into Feige and pitched it, but it could never just be carved out.
Sure.
It would be about like, oh, so Tony Stark's there. That means
he's not supposed to be drinking.
They're going to do his alcoholism storyline in Iron Man 4.
We're fucking nerds.
I was proud of you for that one. Thank you.
Andrew. The Gold.
Yeah. I love the show. I'm so happy we have it.
Episode 4. There are 6 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
This one really leapt out at me because I speaking of like, give me more of that, or like spinoffs. Sean Harris and Dominic Cooper driving across Europe
into
Liechtenstein.
Yeah, but that's what we say. What did Gordon say?
Liechtenstein. Yeah. Mr. Cooper.
Yo.
This has become now a courtroom drama
for this episode,
and a story about use of the way characters are using the media. It has become a low-key story about secret societies in England protecting themselves, and is still just a dazzling, super fun procedural. I love this show. What did you think of the 4th episode?
I thought this was one of the best episodes. Maybe my favorite to date. Great name. vengeance is easy, justice is hard. Not sure if I agree. I thought this episode was thrilling.
And we're going to spoil the fourth episode going forward because I have a huge question for you.
When we talked about episode 3, we were saying one of the pleasures of the show was that it seemed to end the series. Like, where else is it going to go? Now, if you actually know the history of the Brinksmack case, you probably thought we were silly for saying that. But this felt really exciting because it went in directions I didn't know the show was going to go. It also played off of some of our, again, kind of like just sort of casual affection for the way British actors choose to work and the way television and movies and stage interact with each other. Because you mentioned Sean Harris, he shows up in the show, and he's a very idiosyncratic and interesting actor. He was also the villain in Mission Impossible 5 and 6.
Yes,
and he was so unrecognizable to me in the first episode of The Gold that, as I said on this podcast, I was like, that was incredible that they have this training program and like rehabilitation program where they let old criminals out of prison and then play characters similar to them on television. I thought that was just incredible, like social welfare state at its best. But it was Sean Harris. And then for the next 2 episodes, I'm like, he just must love character work. Like, he's just choosing to become someone completely different and show up to do 2 scenes with Dominic Cooper, and maybe he had a hole in the schedule.
Yeah.
And then you see the 4th episode, and you're like, oh, that's why Sean Harris took this part.
Right.
That's why Gordon is a part of this. That there is nothing casual about the construction of this show, and there's a particular kind of joy that I find when you're watching TV, when even if you were going to enjoy it just for the stray bits, it comes together with a scaffolding that is elegant, and you're already in its thrall. It was amazing. Those scenes in this episode ruled.
Yes. And I also wanted to give special shout out to the Tenerife stuff, which I thought was, okay, so like sometimes when you watch period pieces, your brain needs to turn off because you're just like, this would be, so different now because of the internet, because of the 24-hour news cycle, because of the surveillance state that we pretty much live in. But rarely do you see a period piece that kind of slyly acknowledges that. And they do this great thing with, so basically the Tom Cullen character, John, is absconded to Spain with his family.
At first, he just went on holiday.
Yes,
now become,
but I think that he was like,
the net's closing.
The net's closing. This is good for me. I'll go to Spain. I did not know that Spain had a no extradition pact with England at that point.
You seem very interested in this, like even for traffic offenses.
Wait till they catch me driving on the wrong side of the road over there. This episode opens up with an honestly dazzling overhead shot of Palmer like lying in a yellow raft in the middle of the sea.
It was a real Sexy Beast.
And it was very right out of Sexy Beast. And Sexy Beast is obviously set in Spain, where all these English gangsters have sort of retired to. And John is like, this is great. Like, I get some sun on my face. I don't have to smoke. I don't have to like inhale smelt all day. And I get to just smoke my silk cuts and read my paper. And my wife's happy and my kids are happy.
A little karaoke?
Do a little karaoke. It's all going well. I thought the line that, who plays his wife?
Stephanie Martini.
Oh, Marnie, right? Yeah. Okay. So, and that I thought that her line was like, I thought this was a new beginning, and now I realize it was the end. Because essentially, the John character winds up in the papers. There's this great scene in a hotel in Tenerife where he goes up to a guy who keeps eyeballing him, and he's like, "You got a problem?"
Does that remind you of your car?
But then the guy
yesterday?
who's reading a newspaper, he's just like, "Good luck, mate," and he hands him the newspaper, and John Palmer is in the newspaper as like Goldsmith on the run.
I gotta say, like, that guy with the newspaper, that guy had some stones. You know what I mean? Like,
that was a good line.
It was a great line. He was ready for it. He was calm, cool, and collected. Like, I would not.
I just thought that the whole sort of trick of them being in Tenerife and being 2 days behind the news, because it takes 2 days for them to get British papers. So they have this 48 hours of bliss was awesome. Like, I thought that was like such a cool little gesture to the time period without it making it be like, oh God, if they had text messages, this would just be over. You know what I mean? Yeah, this was just, I just find that this show has such subtle evolutions every episode.
The larger themes that, again, I should say, like, this is one of those series that there is a historical record. And when we finish the 6th episode, I look forward to doing some reading about it to know what was changed and what wasn't. Because I want to give Neil Forsyth, the creator, a lot of credit for a lot of things that I'm seeing, but we don't know what's exactly accurate what liberties have been taken. What we do know, and has been, we were joking about the heavy-handedness of the beginning, and I think it's gotten a lot richer and deeper since, is what he wants to do with this historical event in terms of a conversation about class in England and about Thatcher's 80s UK, and also just about the myth of mobility and of flexibility, and that the most together character here, which is Dominic Cooper's Mr. Cooper, the realization that he experiences this episode, that his
life is not his own,
that he is trapped, that he thought that he was choosing the life of a villain with the freedom, because in the new England you can do that. He can give up the security or straitjacket of his father-in-law's fortune to make his own way and be a free man, is not the case. And that the way Gordon calling him Mr. Cooper and our perception of Gordon has shifted. This is also, again, how they shot it. Like, when we first met him, and I thought it was a charity case that he was on the show, he seemed like a little bit down on his luck, a chancy figure that Edwin Cooper, Dominic Cooper's part, was taking a flyer on or deigning to involve himself with. But this is not the case.
It's the reverse. And there's that great line where he's like, "You can hide, but do not run away."
There's a difference.
Yeah.
The other thing that really, I thought, elevated this episode was the speechifying. There were amazing speeches.
The whistling.
Episode. The Hugh Bonneville, again, we don't often say this, that like the amount, the perceptions that have been changed in me over the course of 4 episodes, not just of like, what the more heavy-handed themes meant, or the sort of, like the storytelling tone of the first episode, how it's been earned by the fourth. But like, Hugh Bonneville is incredible in this part. And I did not expect that. I did not know that. And he gives the speech to Kenny Noy.
To Jack Loudon,
about his parents, his mother sheltering him from German bombs.
Yeah.
And the whistling. It's an incredible speech. But all of the speeches were, the Gordon speech about running away and hiding. And then even Cooper gets one himself to the art dealer, to Gary.
Yeah.
Saying about like, you only get, he asks everyone in the room if they, first of all, what a baller move. I'm going to start, if I'm ever on a podcast with more people, I'm going to sit down and be like, thanks for coming on. I'm going to look everyone in the eye and say, does anyone here believe in God? Before the flame of my takes singes them. No, it was awesome.
Loudon is like kind of awesome in this episode, specifically because, I know that Slow Horses is coming back this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
in December, I believe.
There's a lot, when you look at pictures of Loudon, if you Google image search Jack Loudon, it's like, this guy should be James Bond, right? Like, this guy has just got great jawline, great charm, is physically like fit and able, like he can run through the streets and chase somebody down. And then you see him in this, and he's just got like the freshman 15 on. Like, he did a great job of changing his body for this.
Chris,
and
Tom Cullen.
I know.
Look at this. I'm showing Chris a picture of this Adonis.
Viking season. These two guys, like, although Tom Cullen, I will say, based on the first 3 episodes, did not expect him to look like that when he finally got all his clothes off in Tenerife.
You were expecting it to be a little bit worse.
I thought he would have a couple more sausage rolls to him. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's stressful. He's sweating a lot.
He's smoking a lot. I don't really know. I guess he doesn't really eat, but he does seem to drink lager from 9 a.m. until
that is
1
true.
in the morning.
That is true.
It takes an 8-hour break to pass out and smell. Anyway, I just thought Jack Loudon in this episode had like a kind of, I know this is really like extreme comparison, but like almost like a straight time Dustin Hoffman kind of like, I don't know, just like this was Kenneth Noy. I wasn't thinking of Jack Loudon. I was thinking of a guy who's making his pitch about like, I work 20 hours a day for most of like my early life. And then I just basically like took that, bought land, took that, bought a bungalow, took that, bought a haulage company. And his pitch, often when you're listening to people make speeches in court in movies, you're like, this is bullshit. But like this, like, I was like, I'd fucking let this guy off, man. I like this dude.
But also there's something that's really interesting about all of this episode because, and I think, and I don't know how our American perspective affects it, but there's an element of society that's being presented to us. There's an aspect of society that is out of control and falling apart and sliding around, and the old rules don't apply. And you see it when Kenny makes this plea that basically it's an American plea. It's just like, I've done nothing wrong. I've built everything myself, and I am here. I'm not denying who I was, but I'm showing you what I am and the whole nature of the crime, which is essentially like a stand your ground, like defend your own home kind of crime.
Yeah.
And then you see it again when the court brings the jury to the scene of the crime and they reenact it, but like almost like a jump scare at one of your beloved Halloween haunted hayrides. And the press is there snapping away, and it's all slipping through people's fingers. England's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's run through the entire show. I have to say I was a little confused. I thought that our fallen policeman John went to the dogs. Did you have any confusion coming out of episode 3?
I was quite confused by the stabbing. So the one thing that I'm a little bit in the dark about is that at the end of the 3rd episode, it is implied that John Fordham, the sort of director of surveillance for this group of cops who were watching,
who was a veteran with Boys of Northern Ireland,
was attacked by Kenneth Noy's dogs.
Yes.
But instead there seems to have been a stabbing, and it's like he was stabbed 5 times in the front and 5 times in the back. I don't know whether the implication is that Brian Reeder did that or...
No, the implication is that Noy did it.
That Noy did it, and then Noy tells this story of like, essentially like there was a knife in my car and I picked it up to go out, see what all the noise was about.
Yes.
And then this man attacked me and I killed him, but it was an accident.
I think if the show is... Yes, if I have any criticism, just like big picture of the show, that was all very muddy to me. And I wonder if part of it was an assumption that the audience would know. That I think this was an extremely famous case.
Right.
But
and it's like we need him to be guilty of murder and get this over with. Yeah.
And get it over with. But I then thought, even up until the end of the trial scenes, that there was some doubt as to who had done the stabbing. But in fact, it becomes clear that the defense was never anything other than I have every right to defend myself when someone jumps out at me.
Yes.
That the knife was, when he's saying it wasn't even in my right hand. I wasn't trying to attack. I was trying to defend. But that was the inflection point of the case was a little bit confusing to me. Because I came out of the 3rd episode being like, the dogs.
The dogs ate this
guy. And that they pulled him out of the house to arrest him because of what had happened. They were arresting him anyway.
Yeah.
But instead, it seems that he was arrested for standing with a knife over a dead cop.
Yeah.
Which is a different thing.
It's 2 more episodes. Very excited for them.
How do you like it when? So I think it's Gary is the art dealer.
Yeah.
Like just that. Again, I feel like there must be a term. I don't know it for writers' rooms of when you just like create someone for the purpose of ending that person, and you have to give them some narrative ballast, to kind of get through. In that scene where we meet him, we don't know why we're in because I think that's around the 6 months later jump too. And then he has a customer who he berates and chases out of the shop just for the sin of wanting to get something pretty for his wife. I don't know what the term for that is, but I love it when smart writers make the most of it. Like that was I don't have the actor's name in front of me. Like I liked him. I liked the way he was. I liked his performance. I liked the vibe. I liked the change in velocity for the episode.
Yeah.
And we might not see him again. It seems like it didn't go great for him in Liechtenstein.
Okay, we're going to wrap up there. We'll be back on Thursday. Andy, by the time people hear this, your event will probably be in motion.
Yeah, if anybody is in LA though wants to see me talk to our buddy Sean Howe about his new book, Agents of Chaos, Stories, Books, and Cafe in Echo Park. Today, Monday, October 2nd, 7 p.m.
And if anybody sees me in LA, I promise to come to a complete stop.
Yeah, this is the thing. This was like a cry for help. There are going to be so many eyes on you now all the time. What's good is because I know that when you're driving with Phoebe, she doesn't mind how you
I don't drive with Phoebe anymore. I just ride passenger. Thank you to Sasha for producing us today. We'll be back on Thursday.